Divide and Concord follows Jean Hill's controversial crusade to ban bottled water in Concord, Massachusetts. Here to help us understand how those empty bottles end up having a huge impact around the world is Professor Kara Lavender Law, an oceanographer at Sea Education Association in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. Kara, welcome.
Thank you.
So we just watched Jean Hill's hard-won battle to ban single-serve plastic water bottles in Concord, Massachusetts. We know that San Francisco also famously banned plastic bags, and that they're talking about a statewide ban in California. Is this the future that Americans are going to have to live without plastic water bottles and plastic bags?
We produce a tremendous amount of trash compared to people, for example, in the developing world. And a large portion of that is plastic waste. What happens to that largely depends on the state you live in, even the municipality that you live in. I've been fortunate enough to live in states where we have curbside recycling. What's challenging is that even the things that go into that blue recycling bin, we're not guaranteed those are actually getting recycled. There are a lot of steps between people thinking they're doing the right thing by putting it in that bin and it actually being turned into a product that can be used again.
As you're watching this film, how did this speak to you, given the research that you do?
I was moved by this movement in Concord, Massachusetts, and by the passion of these two women to get this bottle bill passed. And I understand the arguments. I do understand the arguments against, regulating, telling people what they can and cannot buy. But I think it is a really important point that the community is saying this is something we feel strongly about. We can do something ourselves to reduce the amount of plastic that we are using and then have to deal with, whether that means using energy to recycle it or risking losing it to the environment.
So there's a massive amount of plastic waste that we're generating, essentially. And we don't know exactly where it goes, but in the film, we know that a lot of it's going into the ocean. Talk to us about how it gets from land to sea.
In the United States, we have very robust waste management. We have the recycling bins, we have garbage trucks, garbage cans, we have places where our trash goes and is contained. In large parts of the world, there is no infrastructure that can take care of all of this trash that's being produced. And so in many places, there's just simply open dumping on the land or open dumping into rivers or waterways that carry a tremendous amount of all kinds of trash directly out to sea. But what we think is that the largest source is actually that plastic waste generated by people like us on land that somehow ends up there intentionally or not.
And what do we know about the plastic pollution in the ocean?
We know that plastic is widespread in the ocean. It's found from the seafloor up to the sea surface, from the coasts out to the Arctic Ocean, places where people don't live. It is present in a large number of forms, from large lost fishing nets to products that we think about like bottles, packaging. But it also breaks down in the environment into very small particles called microplastics. The biggest concern is that they're so small, and they're smaller than your pinky fingernail, generally speaking, that they're accessible to a wide variety of marine animals. So everything from plankton all the way up to filter-feeding whales could potentially ingest these plastics, eat them, and then depending on the organism, they might be physically harmed by having taken this plastic into their body. There are also chemicals associated with the plastic that might cause harm to the health of the animal.
Is recycling and conservation enough?
No, recycling is not going to be enough because we're losing value every time. Even if everything gets perfectly collected and perfectly recycled, the materials typically today can only be used one time only. We need to think about the lifetime of the product that they're being used in. What is the plan when we're done using that product? And so something like single-use packaging, I think that's a good target to say some of that may not be absolutely necessary. Maybe we should give up a little bit of convenience in order to use these materials wisely.
Thank you, Professor Kara Lavender Law, for helping us rethink our relationship to plastic bags and bottles.
Thank you.